Hi everyone, and welcome to this session of SIEMonster's official training. In this section we will be looking at TheHive, Cortex and Misp, which forms the basis for the SOAR functionality of the solution. We'll cover the purpose of each one of these components as well as all their subcomponents and the configuration options available. The default description on the Hive project's website is a scalable, open source, and free security incident response platform tightly integrated with Misp, information sharing platform, designed to make life easier for SOCs, CSIRTs, CERTs, and any information security practitioner dealing with security, etc. The architecture of the Hive basically functions as follows. The Hive receives alerts via alert feeders. These can be via APIs, the Misp directly, or analyzers. And it then processes those alerts into the environment and makes them available for case management or marking them as red depending on what your needs are. The topics that we will be covering as part of the Hive is alerts, case templates, report templates, observables, cases, and dashboards. When you're looking at the alerts, you're looking at statistics, filters, reference type, status, title, source, severity, date, preview, mark as read, and bulk deletion. To demonstrate this, I will go to alerts. You can see that the reference is an internal reference in the Hive, which will basically tell you what the reference is inside the Hive for the specific alert. The type is external. There are various types that can be ingested here. Another type, for example, is Misp. If you want to ingest all the Misp events that are coming through as actual alerts into the system so that you can further investigate yourself, in case you're a malware researcher or a security researcher that needs that type of input. You will see that these tags associated with each alert, there's a name, and these are all configurable from your alert log source. So wherever the event was generated or captured, or the alert was generated or captured, that is where you configure those items. In the source it says Elast alert because it was generated in Elast alert through Breako, and the severity is set. The amount of attributes are the amount of observables in an alert. The date that it was captured, then you've got your preview and import, and you've got your mark as read. So if you click on your preview and import, you will see that it's got IP addresses, it's got destination port and source port, payload, and payload printable. These are the 6 observables or attributes that you saw in that screen. You will note at the top in the description, destination IP, source IP, etc. are all repeated. The reason for that is because the observables themselves are only classified as IP, and sometimes it is useful to retain directional information about which direction the data flowed. Was it initiated from internal? Was it initiated from outside? What party actually sent the information that was captured by the system as an alert? That becomes quite important. There's also statistics. So there's a top 5 tags listed here, so you can see if there's any outliers or high volume events that you could very quickly merge into a single case, which is possible by selecting, and you can say merge selection into case and just specify a case number or a name. That's one of the options. Or you can delete them. Once again, you select the ones that you want and you say delete. You can increase the volume of the ones you want to delete at the top here to 100, which means it will display 100 alerts here at one time, which means you can select 100. This is useful when building new rules and you've accidentally set an alert to too low specification and you all of a sudden end up with a few thousand alerts here. This makes it useful to delete them. Please bear in mind that this is an auditable system, so any alerts that go into the system will remain there regardless if you delete them. When you delete them, it purely makes them invisible to the dashboard. If you go to case templates, you can have either custom templates or you can import templates that you've received from another location. And this is something that's very important, and you need to make note of this. Permissible actions protocol is part of the case and importing of alerts. There's also tactics, techniques, and procedures. So, from a permissible actions protocol point of view, you will need to establish what level of response an engineer, a SOC engineer, a person that has access to the system is allowed to perform. This is very important from a threat hunting and attack analysis point of view, as sometimes the attacker may still be in your environment. So if you start probing them, doing nmap scans on the source IP address, etc., this could negatively impact your business, because he could realize that you are onto him and he can cause real damage in the environment. Also, if this is an external IP address, this could get you into real legal trouble, as in most countries it is illegal to do offensive security against a party that is attacking you. This is obviously dependent on the legal system in your specific country. There's tasks as well, and metrics and custom fields. So let's go to those quickly. Look at the case template. So TLP is the traffic light protocol. There are different classifications of that, which we will go through shortly. Template name, you specify the template name that you are going to use. Title prefix is a prefix that will be appended to the title of any alerts that's processed with this template applied. You can set your severity, the TLP, and your PAP, which we've already discussed. That's your permissible actions protocol. And then you have your tags. There's a description that you can add to that as well. And you can add more tasks to that can be assigned to individuals or groups, where you can give specific instructions such as contact the firewall team to black hole a specific IP, etc. You can add metrics and custom fields to the case template. These are useful in the sense where you have policy and compliance requirements, where you need to perform certain validations or steps when you're doing investigations. You can then add these in as part of that process. There's also custom templates to format the output of the various analyzers. Templates can be modified. They can be imported from the template sets provided by the software provider, in this case TheHive, and they will provide you with a cleaner output for the analysis that's being performed. If you look at the report templates, you will see that it's got a short template, long template, and you can view them. And you can see that the formatting has been applied to that. And you can see that there's one for each of the analyzers that are currently enabled on the system. Hope that makes sense. When it comes to observables, you will notice that there are a fixed number of observables. There is URL, other, user agent, regular expressions, mail subjects, registry, etc., etc., etc. You can add custom observables to the environment, but please bear in mind that if you add custom observables to the environment, there may not be an analyzer that is associated with them. One or two of the fields that I usually like to add as observables is payload and payload printable, because I like to retain those as evidence, even though there aren't any analyzers for them. Each one of these is associated with one or more analyzers, and the minute you add the observable with that specific criteria or name, the Hive will make those analyzers available to that observable for investigation. When you're reviewing alerts, etc., you can preview them, and then you can merge them into a case. You can merge similar cases into one, and there are various fields that you can review for that purpose. So let's go to the cases quickly. Let's pick the first one. So this is what the case looks like. You've got related cases that have very similar tags and observables, and there you have your description, etc. There's your tasks, so if there's any tasks associated, it will be shown here, and you have your observables, and here you can see your alerts. For alerts where you've got a lot of evidence that's been pulled in and combined, you can look at something like this. So this is where you merge all your alerts into a single case, and if you click on alerts, it will show you all the alerts that's associated with that specific case. There are also some default dashboards that are there for your consideration when it comes to statistics and viewing, etc. The default three are alerts, job statistics, and case statistics. So if you click on them, you can see that there's alerts by artifact data, weighting alerts by type, weighting alerts by source, etc. So if you have multiple sources and types of alerts coming through, these will obviously be differentiated here. This is all also editable. You can copy the images or save the images, the CSVs, etc. The other dashboards, job statistics. This will show you how many of each there were, the total, etc. And here it will give you the breakdown of analyzer usage. And then there's your case statistics as well. So these are the tags again, false positives, owner, and cases by status, open versus resolved, and your time frames as well. You can add many more options here. There's a lot of variables that you can incorporate. It all depends on what your needs are. So for the next step, we're quickly going to take an alert and we're going to create a case from it. But first we're going to create a template. So let's look at the alert. So we can see that this is a Suricata alert. And there is already a template for it. So if we go to the case templates, you can see there's a Suricata alert. There's already a template there. Let's set our PAP to red and our TLP to red as well. We can even add a task. And we can say, example, task group, let's make this SOC. And we can say, send email to firewall admins to block IPs. You can assign it to someone. I'll just assign it to the admin because I'm running as admin. And I can save the case template. So now we go back to alerts. Preview it once more. I'll scroll down. I'll see the observable matches with others. These, for a very small network, are quite fine, which means that there isn't a close correlation. So I'll say yes, import. This takes a few seconds, takes you to the case screen. And this will show you what has been imported. So your case number is 15. There is your title at the top, and here is your description. So the next options to do is you look at the options here. You can see that there's payload and payload printable. Obviously those are not analyzable because those are the custom ones I've added. And you can see there's an internal IP. I have an analyzer enabled that's called Patrol, which will tie in with my asset and inventory management, so that I can also see what is actually happening to that host. The patrol asset inventory management will do vulnerability management as well as asset management on internal hosts. This is absolutely critical when you're doing incident response, because how will you otherwise ascertain if an attack is a valid attack or a fake attack or just a script kiddie running a scan if you don't have visibility of what's going on inside your environment? You can see the grade is pulled through and the findings is pulled through as well. The reports I showed you earlier, the reporting templates, formatted in this format for the specific observable and the specific analyzer. So you can see here that I've got 5 mediums and 67 infos. You can trim the infos down in Patrol by just importing a level low and up. That is generally recommended. And you can see here SSL ciphers that are medium or strength encryption, etc. So there is an SSL risk there, etc. So you can compare the attack with that. Now you see the external IP. You can see there's quite a few options available. You can literally just click run all and wait for it to complete. Depending on your line speed, your system resources allocated to the environment, etc., this could take anywhere from a few seconds to half an hour. You will note as it is running, updates are also processed on the right hand column, which is your audit trail for it. While that is running, you can go back to your dashboard and your alerts, and we can talk a little bit about filters. So when it comes to the alerting, you can add additional filters to filter specific types of alert. So if you have a SOC team and the SOC team consists of 2 people and the one person is a Linux specialist and the other is a Windows specialist, you could potentially add tags that says something is specific to Linux or something is specific to Windows, and then you can use the filters option to actually add a filter for the tags that are here. So for example, if I wanted to filter for 192.168.1.248, I would simply go 192.1.248 and I would filter for that. And I'll say apply, and it will now limit the view to that type of information. You can also do correlation by that means. So you can say source IP, etc. You can specify the signature, so you can maybe find related alerts and ingest them into the same case. So you've got multiple observables that you can work with. With that being said, we can quickly go back to our case and see if our results are back, and yes, they are. Oh, sorry, wrong case. If you remember correctly, we actually had case number 15, and we can click there, click on observables, and you can see it's come back, and ThreatCrowd has actually got 1 vote against that site. Okay, you can see it's Windows Update. So in this case, it's a false positive. But you can see the value that the analyzers bring to the whole argument. Imagine you had to spend all those hours logging into those separate sources to go verify each one of those observables. Your time is much better spent using a tool like this because it can automatically run that analysis for you. There's also an OTX, for example, for everybody that's reported it with related URLs, etc. So now that we've done this, we can say we want to close it. It's a false positive, and we can name it Windows Update. And the case is now officially closed. Your filters here are set to open, so you will no longer see it, even though it's still there. And you can see here's the history that was run for that specific case. And that basically covers the incident management process. There's a lot of customization that can be done to cover your processes and to cover which analyzers you want to run, etc. And I'll take you through those quickly so that you can get a better understanding of what is available and what is not. Go to Analyzers, and I'll just switch to Org Admin. If you have a fresh build, you will have to set up an account that is an organizational admin. Once you've logged in as Org Admin, you can go to Organizations, you can go to Analyzers, and here you will see a list of all the analyzers that are available to the system. I've already enabled all the free and open source ones, including the ones that I have keys for personally. So you can choose. If you have subscriptions to some of these, then you are more than welcome to add them. And to give you an idea of how easy it is, you can, for example, you've got a VirusTotal subscription. You can just type VirusTotal scan or get report. So say, for example, you've got get report, you can enable that. You can say true, you paste your key that was applied. You say extract observables, which is very important. Those are the ones that adds the tasks or the tags to each observable, and you click save. Automatically, when you add an observable that can be processed by this analyzer will automatically be displayed inside the Hive. You can see here is a Misp integration that is already enabled by default on the system for you, and Misp requires a little bit of extra setup to get the feeds in. We'll get to that shortly. Aside from the analyzers, there's also responders. Responders are part of the automatic response section of this. The core OS version that I'm demonstrating the solution on is the previous subversion build. With the latest release coming out on Ubuntu, there is a significantly higher number of options available to you here, including Wazoo, etc. These can be configured. You can create your own custom ones. If you go to the Cortex GitHub page, they've got examples there. It is pure Python, and you can add your own responders, analyzers, etc. So if you have an internal data source that you can query with an API, you can create some Python code and you can add that to the analyzers as well, and that will automatically make it available to the environment. From a threat intelligence point of view, there is Misp. Misp is already pre-configured for you when you deploy the environment. The standard tasks that needs to be set up is you need to go to schedule tasks. You need to set up the frequency in hours that you want to fetch your feeds that you're subscribing to. You need to say how long you want to cache those feeds, because they do get aged out as items are adjusted. If you have enabled integration into the Misp environment, the sharing environment, then you can set your push all period, where all your updates to the environment will be pushed out to the other recipients, and your pull all period for pulling all cached information again from the services, etc. Your cache of exports, you can also set. There's descriptions for everything here, as well as the last message history. You can go to jobs in the left hand corner to see the status of all the jobs, and you can also see if some of the nodes are offline, as you can see here. That node was offline, and you can see that it's feed 8. That is important. I'll show you in a second. So to select the feeds that you want, you go to list feeds under sync actions. You select the ones that you want, you click enable selected, the page will refresh. You click it again, and you can enable caching for it. You can also force the download by clicking the download button here, the fetch all events. And there is 2 pages of feeds that you can subscribe to. It all depends on your business needs. Now, if you recall, you can see feed 8 failed, which means that the Tor network list from dan.me.uk was unable to be pulled. you can force it to see if it pulls, and you can go back to jobs and you can see the status there. Once all of those are finished, you go to list galaxies. If this is empty, you just say force update galaxies or update galaxies, and you wait for this to be populated. This is the natural grouping mechanism that's built into the environment to group all the observables and items that's pulled into the environment. With those events pulling through, you'll notice that they are listed here, and they've got IDs, and your organization name will always say org name because that's how the default instance is set up. And for the community edition, this will always be admin at SIEMonster.internal.com. Then there's a description for it, and it will also show you the volume of attributes inside the events that were pulled. This is then pulled through to the Hive via the Cortex analyzers. That closes the loop so that you have your open source intelligence tied to your cases. You have external data sources like VirusTotal, Shodan, etc. You've got Patrol tied into that to give you visibility of your internal infrastructure and networking, etc. And all of these combined will give you a pretty clear picture if something is risky or dangerous for your environment, and if it warrants further attention or potentially even getting law enforcement involved if it's a successful attack, or if you're under state compliance requirements like NIST, etc. That covers the whole of the Hive Cortex in Misp. I hope the instruction was useful and that you will enjoy playing around with the system and getting used to it from that point forward. Thank you for your time.